less than 10 seconds.
Hey everyone, Michael here from the HR MacMillan Space Centre, once again joined by the incomparable Morgan from Let's Talk Science. How are you, Morgan?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm starting to get a bit sad because we're running out. This is our second to last one, our penultimate episode of the Michael and Morgan show. Hopefully everyone out there has been having fun this summer with all these activities that you've been cooking up, Morgan. And this week we are delving into a subject that is actually very near and dear to my heart, which is light pollution. What do you got in store for this week?
So this week we're doing a very simple activity in terms of constructing what we need to use to explore light pollution.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really accessible for people to do with their brothers and sisters and really anybody that they want. It's like it can be a group-oriented activity for anybody who's been cooped up at home with a big family. I've realized we've kind of been catering to individuals, so tried to involve more people if needed, but not necessary.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really fun. I grew up in a place where there wasn't a lot of light pollution because it was a pretty small town.
Yeah.
And so I never really thought about how lucky I was to have nice stars at my viewing all the time. So yeah. I think this might put into perspective for some people how bad light pollution can be.
Yeah, certainly. And I think the reason that I think this is near and dear to my heart is because I've been a city liver my entire life. So I would call myself, a city astronomer. So the stars that I can see become that much more important because without that, then we have no connection to the stars, and then I would have nothing to talk about. And there's a danger that if we don't actually address this problem, it's just going to keep getting worse. And that's kind of one of those things, is that light pollution, in amongst all of the other problems out there, it's important, but then it gets, down here. And there's multiple layers to it. A lot of it is economic, but a lot of it just sort of starts with an individual recognizing that it's a problem, and that in individual homes, you can make some differences. You can make some choices, especially if you live in a house and you have some outdoor lighting, and making sure that the light is shining down, not up into the air, creating the pollution that bleaches out the stars.
And so if people want to know more about this, where could they find some information, Michael?
Well, absolutely. There is actually an association called the International Dark Sky Association. And there's many resources there, a lot of links to articles, one of them which I wrote as well. And you get to learn about some really cool places. And in the Lower Mainland, there is actually a dark sky preserve. It's out in McDonald Park, and that's out in Abbotsford. And this is actually an initiative done by the city to create a dark park so that astronomers and the public can go there and look at the stars, not hindered by any of the lights. So they've, a lot of the lights that surround the parkers are turned off. Now, obviously you can't create dark sky preserves everywhere in every park because safety can be a bit of an issue. And this is the type of park you can't just go in at night at any time. There are certain times of the year where it is closed because they do want to make it safe. And that is part of the balance of creating dark parks, but also creating safe places to go and look at the stars. But at the moment, that is the only dark sky preserve in the Lower Mainland. But around the world, there's some really great ones, including one out in Quebec, just outside of Sherbrooke. It's called the Mont Médiatique Dark Sky Preserve. There's an observatory there. And the city of Sherbrooke actually is inside the Dark Sky Preserve, which I find fascinating, that the entire city got on board to create these initiatives. And part of that was to create tourism around it, because now they're known as a city that's involved in this dark sky preserve. So you could be in the city and you would have a dark sky experience. Of course, even better if you go out into the actual park itself, near the observatory, really dark skies there. So, those are the types of places that I would like to go on vacation. I don't know about you, Morgan.
I was just thinking to myself, Sherbrooke, I could go east.
Yeah, maybe in a year when we can travel a little bit more safely. But of course, for anyone out there that is perhaps doing some camping, even just observing, as you get outside of the Lower Mainland, just start to look at the sky and look how much more darker it is. And when you look back towards Vancouver, you'll start to see that sky glow, and it really becomes much more pronounced once you leave the city, just how much light is being shone into the air, and hopefully will motivate people to make some better choices when it comes to lighting. So for Morgan and me, thank you so much. We will be back for our very last episode next week. Hope to see you then.
Sad. Enjoy this week, everybody.
Hi everybody, welcome back for another week of crafting along with Let's Talk Science and the HR MacMillan Space Centre. This week we are doing a super simple activity to explore a phenomenon known as light pollution. Light pollution is excessive, misdirected, or obtrusive artificial light. Too much light pollution has consequences. It washes out starlight in the night sky, interferes with astronomical research, disrupts ecosystems, has adverse health effects, and wastes energy. A little more than 100 years ago, you could walk outside at night, even in a city, and see the Milky Way galaxy arch across the night sky. Being able to see thousands of stars was part of everyday life, inspiring artists like Van Gogh or musical composers like Holst. By allowing artificial lights to wash out our starry night skies, we are losing touch with our cultural heritage and what could inspire future generations. With more than half of the world's population now living in cities, 3 out of every 4 people have never experienced the wonderment of pristine dark skies. How do you explain the importance of what they've lost to light pollution? How can you make them aware that light pollution is a concern on many fronts? And how do you convince them that it's worthwhile to take small steps to fix this problem? An IDA International Dark Sky Reserve is a public or private land possessing an exceptional or distinguished quality of starry nights and nocturnal environment that is specifically protected for its scientific, natural, educational, cultural, heritage, or public enjoyment. Reserves consist of a core area meeting minimum criteria for sky quality and natural darkness, and a peripheral area that supports dark sky preservation in the core. Reserves are formed through a partnership. IDA designates international dark sky places following a rigorous application process requiring applicants to demonstrate robust community support for dark sky protection and document designation-specific program requirements. So the first thing we want to do, as always, is gather all of the supplies that we need for doing our activity at our workspace. So today we are exploring the phenomenon of light pollution in a relatively simple way. We are going to build a constellation on a black piece of construction paper using a pair of scissors. You can draw your constellation on with a white pencil crayon first if you have one. And you can find inspiration for your constellation by using the internet. You can look up different constellations that are visible to us in our northern hemisphere. And you could pick your favorite. One of my favorite is just the plain old Big Dipper. There's lots others out there. Let us know in the comments what you decide to go with. You're going to need some tape for attaching your constellation to your light source, which is going to be a flashlight. If you've got a bigger flashlight, one of the ones with a diameter about this wide, that would be better for this activity. I don't have one in my home, and we are, as always, encouraging you guys to use materials that are available to you at home. So I've got to make do with what I've got. If you've got something better, that's excellent. You also want to use a relatively dark room. So as you can see by the shadow being cast from my hand to the wall, I have a natural light source coming into my room. That's okay. If you are going to do this activity, try to do it at night when you can have complete darkness in your room. You'll get better results. So, as I mentioned briefly, the first thing we're going to do is make our constellation on our black piece of construction paper. I want my constellation to fit onto my flashlight, so I'm just going to cut my piece of paper to be kind of uniform with the size of the flashlight. It doesn't have to be perfect, it can be super rough. And then I'm going to make up a constellation just for demonstration's sake. So I'm going to make a small smiley face with my scissors by poking holes in the black construction paper in the shape of a smiley face very carefully. If you're under the age of 13, it's really important to have parental permission to be participating in this activity, as well as perhaps their help in making the holes in the construction paper, especially if your scissors are particularly sharp. If you don't have scissors readily available, you can use anything. Honestly, like a pencil would do the trick. A small knife if you have one. Again, be very careful and have your parents assist you. So you see here, I've got my constellation cut out of my piece of paper now. It is in the shape of a smiley face. There you go. It appears a little bit better up against the contrasting light wall in the background. And now I'm simply going to tape this to my flashlight so that the constellation is on the light part, like where the flashlight is illuminated by the light bulb. Now I've got my constellation attached to my light source, and what I'm going to do is get into a room with complete darkness, or what you're going to do is get into a room with complete darkness. I can't do that in the space that I have available to me, but you want it as dark as possible. And then you're going to shine the light through your constellation onto a wall, and you're gonna have to get very close to the wall in order for your constellation to show up. And you should see something that looks sort of like what you were expecting based on how you made your holes in your black piece of construction paper. And then what you're going to do is slightly moderate the amount of background light that you've got coming into your room. So whether that be by drawing the curtains in your room or turning on some background light, and then repeating the viewing of your constellation onto the wall. And now what you should observe is a difference in the acuity of the constellation appearing on the wall. So with more background light, we see less of the shape that we desired of our constellation, and that demonstrates to you that light pollution generated by big cities and large populations in metropolitan areas reduces our ability to view the night sky and highlights the importance of international dark sky reserves for astrological purposes. So that's all for this week. Again, a really simple activity to explore light pollution with your aunts or uncles or brothers or sisters or cats or dogs or whoever else you want to do science with. And we'll see you guys next week.